Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us this week on Newsmakers. Well, it's the time of year when we visit with faculty and staff members at Missouri Southern who are retired or are retiring. And today I have the pleasure of visiting with Terry Marion, professor in the management department. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
And I know I've known you for many years working here at Missouri Southern, and I guess a lot of people probably ask, what does it feel like to have this kind of end of career time coming upon you?
Well, it's plus and minus. It's somewhat scary, but on the other hand, before there was a phased retirement system, it was all or nothing, and that was really scary if you've done something all your life.
And so now you have this phased retirement system for our viewers, but let's start a little bit of background, what that involves. What does that mean?
Well, a few years ago, probably for saving money for the university and to be able to bring in new people, they came up with a plan that said teachers who are eligible for retirement could apply for a 1, 2, or a 3-year phased retirement. And it really means teaching for a professor half-time for half pay.
Okay, so you're not on campus as much either then. Your hours are reduced as far as your contact time on campus. But from a professor's perspective, you're still interacting with students.
Yes, in the classroom, but we're not to do advising. Now, of course, we can answer questions during our class time and all of this, and we have a very limited number of office hours. Seems like it's 3 office hours or something like that per week.
So it's kind of a mix. I'm working still, but yet I have this retirement time.
Yes, yes.
So kind of getting you used to having those days off.
Yes, and less scary than just saying no longer do you do what you always did.
So that is effective this semester you've been doing it?
Yes, I started January 1.
Okay, and how long will you be in the phase retirement?
For 3 years.
And are you able to continue teaching some of the same courses you taught when you were full-time?
Well, it's up to the university as to what my assignment is, and so for this semester they had looked and said, we just need you teaching. I'd taught up to 3 different subjects at one time and many different subjects over the years. But they decided that I should do, the main thing that I taught was human resource management. And they like the phase people to actually be on campus because it's easier for them to find adjunct who are teaching online than coming to classes to campus, because they also may have a job. Most of them do. So yes, I teach 2 classes, 9:30 and 11 on Tuesday and Thursday, and so that's it.
So that's it. All right. So a different change of pace for you.
Yes, yes.
I want to take some time today to talk about your career in higher education and your work and social background, but I know that people are probably curious of what sparked your interest perhaps in pursuing higher education as a career, working in the field and teaching.
Well, I was actually an accounting major in undergraduate school. And kind of in the last moment, I decided maybe I would want to teach. I don't remember if somebody suggested that or what. So I quickly, during that last year, and you maybe couldn't do that today, but I picked up some education hours that provided the minimum requirements there. And I was in school during the summer and in August. Where I went to school, I actually would pick up 18 hours during the summer, because a regular 8-hour session, 8-week session, and then another 4-week in August, where you attended each class 2 hours a day, 6 days a week.
So
really you crammed in
that classwork.
So immediately after high school, I did that and was picked up 18 hours the first semester, a regular term, another 18 hours, another regular term, and another 18 hours, and basically I was done. So in 2 years and 3 months.
You got through that whole academic program.
Yes. And that last year I did pick up the education hours, and I'd already enrolled in graduate school though for the fall. And the superintendent of schools from Neosho came and found me on campus through somebody and said, would you consider teaching? And I said, well, I'm already enrolled. But I actually, since I had an option, I felt like maybe I was tired for a while, because I never had more than a week off.
Right, because you were just class by class by class.
Yes, yes. And so I started teaching in Neosho a long time ago. I was 20 years old in 1960. So I taught there for 6 years. And the community college at Neosho, Crowder, had started. So I applied to go there and went there. Was there 9 years. And during the same time, I'd always done some consulting, training, and actually was doing an adjunct class at Southern. And during that time, another professor was becoming our dean. And so his position came open. I applied and got that. That was in 1976.
So a long time then working in the classroom with the students and so forth. And you mentioned, also getting that hands-on in the field as well. It's not just academics. You were working in business as well.
Yes, yes. And in fact, I left Missouri Southern in 1994 and I'd been working some training and a little bit of consulting for Eagle Picture Industries, Eagle Picture Technologies, yes, way back before their bankruptcy and all of
changes,
this.
right.
About 2,000 employees at the time.
Wow.
And so I was actually hard to try to find them somebody, and we weren't successful. So he said, "What about you?" And I said, "Let me consider it." And so I went there in it was actually December of 1994. And was there a year and a half, and actually another semester where I was kind of doing both, finishing up one and doing the other. But then Jim Gray, who was our dean of the School of Business, talked to me, and I said, "Is there a possibility of coming back then?" And so, because Eagle Picture had changed, it had come out of bankruptcy, new ownership and all of this, and I assume I could have stayed, I don't know, but anyway, I decided to come back, and I came back as a half-time professor and half-time as a director of the International Trade and Quality Center, where we did seminars, because again, I had done a lot of seminars and training.
So the ties to the community have always been an important aspect of your career, working with
Well, and I think I know you can't do so much, you can't do your job, and it affects it, but I think it's actually been a big plus. In fact, my evaluations always point out the fact that I give real-world examples. So I'm probably weak on the theory, but
they understand
strong
the real
on the
world.
practical side, yes.
Right. Well, I know Missouri Southern has recognized your teaching with some awards. You received actually the statewide Governor's Award for Excellence Teaching. Tell me about that, what was involved with that, or your reaction to that when you found out about it.
Well, I don't even know how they're selected, but it came from the president's office, and I wasn't the first, but that meant going to Columbia or Jefferson City, I guess, yes. And where teachers, one professor from each university campus.
So you represented Missouri Southern.
Yes, representing Missouri Southern.
Right. Yes. And then campus-wide Outstanding Teacher Award.
Twice, yes. And so that was good. That's based primarily on nominations from students and your colleagues would nominate. And
so that really is your peers as well as the students you've been teaching.
That makes you feel good.
Yeah, you feel pretty good. I know you've worked closely with students throughout the years. I know, I think a free enterprise program you were involved with students, advising them?
Yes, that was in the late 70s. Dr. Leon, who was our dean at the time, had heard about this program and asked if I would be interested in it. And I'm a free market person and believe that that's what really spurs economy and good jobs. So I said yes. So for several years, well, really from, I guess, 1978 until I left in 94.
Right.
I ran that program, and they have regional conferences with competition. So you go and tell them about the kind of projects you've done. Like we had a puppet show that taught economics from 2nd grade through 6th grade. It got written up in the Wall Street Journal at the time.
So your students here at Southern were bringing these projects to the schools?
Yes, out into the schools. We had a program for high schools. We had a stock market program. And we would go and present then to a panel of judges, usually about 20 judges, as to what we had done and how many people you had reached. And so we won the region of that several times and went as far as second in the nation. We never won first place in the nation, but we won second in that.
Must have been fun to see your students working on these projects.
Yeah, and you get those that are really dedicated to it. Others, we eventually started offering a 3-hour credit of independent study for the program.
Because they put a lot of work into it, I'm sure.
Yes, yes. And Southern is not a campus where you have a lot of people hanging around in the dorms wanting something to do. I think maybe 80-85% commute. So to get those students, juniors and seniors, and in this business school, over 90% have a job.
So they're working outside of their classes,
yes.
right?
So to get them to be committed to this, we started offering credit And again, that really helped it and increased the numbers, but you also increased those people only looking for credit. So you had to monitor that.
Right. But was it to see the students win those awards, the pride that they must have been really
Oh
gratifying?
yes, and out of that came several job offers. You know, the very first one we went to, the executives for the most part were from Ralston Purina.
Okay.
And they were the ones providing the prizes and the money for that. And two of our students received job offers. Now, neither one of them took it at the time, but one of them kept contacting the person, would you want to work for Ralston Purina? And then later, in other years, there was a variety of judges from a variety of companies. Walmart ended up being a really good sponsor of this and even provided a small stipend for the professor that was doing it, and they offered jobs. And so yeah, it was a good thing for them.
So the business community, outside business community, really supported the universities and colleges doing this.
Yes, yes.
And they can see the benefit because they're going to have people that graduate as students that have that background they're looking for.
Yes, and somebody who actually believes in profits.
Right.
There's a lot who don't.
So, you know, and understanding how business works.
Yes,
like
yes,
for
yes.
success and so forth. Well, I imagine you've worked with a lot of students throughout the years beyond that type of organization, but just, you mentioned advising early on, that, you know, but that was a big role. And when you're a full-time professor, you have students coming to you all the time. I'm a business major, what do I do? What are my opportunities?
Yeah, they divide those up. An administrative assistant usually assigns new students to the faculty. Now, this has changed a bit in the business school, but then they would go to an advisor, or they meet you in a class, and they may change their advisor, and they had the ability to do that. But that was a big part, and it's something I enjoyed and felt rewarded by helping students select the appropriate classes. Many times they'd try to do it on their own.
Right.
And I would run into students. I would say, why are you taking that? Well, I thought it would be good. And
It sounded good in the catalog, right?
more than once I saved a semester for a student because they were taking things that would maybe transferred in on their transcript that they didn't know.
Right.
Or we would have people take a course in another department. They didn't realize that in the business school we also accepted that, such as statistics and psychology, or in social sciences. You know, we felt like statistics was pretty much the same for the basics. And so a professor, an advisor who also knew the ins and outs of the catalogs, and I think was very valuable to them.
Right.
And
especially, I would imagine, the students coming in as freshmen, and they say, well, I think I want to do something in business. And did you feel that you helped some of them down the path? They weren't sure at the beginning, and they really found their passion?
yes, and I've also found some that shouldn't have been there, and they just didn't seem to be relating to it. So you encourage them to find their true
There's other
career.
opportunities, right?
And even within the School of Business, I had several students that were management or human resource management majors, and they took the first two accounting courses, May days, which is unusual. And I said, maybe you want to consider this. Not many people have the discipline, the study habits to really do that well in accounting. So I had no ego in saying you ought to be a management major. You know, to me, it's what's best for them.
Right, so fit the students' wants and their interests in tying that together. Do you find that when you talk to John Q. Public and they ask, well, you know, what is management? That seems like a broad term. Just defining that, whether it's the public or the students, trying to what that field is?
Yeah, and it is kind of vague, and our first course is somewhat theoretical. But, you know, there's handling the resources you have, and you have physical resources and making the best use of your plant, facility, buildings. But then the side that I emphasized was the people resources. A lot of organizations, 75–85% of their total budget is in their people.
The personnel costs.
And that's what I had worked in an industry is. And that field even includes a lot of things, you know, like I had a person that worked in workers' compensation, another person that worked in benefits, a recruiter, the healthcare side of the business, we had an industrial nurse. And so it's making their life better there, but getting the right people in the right jobs, matching them up.
You know, in the past, they just say, it's our personnel department, but now it sounds like human resources has so many specialties, or, you know, like you say, so many different areas of emphasis.
Well, it used to be a clerk's job years and years ago. And at best it was called personnel, but it was just maybe the accounting department did
Somebody
most
make
of
sure
that.
you write the checks and hand them to somebody.
Yes,
Right?
yes, and that's important. But where I was, the payroll wasn't even under HR. That was an accounting function. But our job was to recruit the best people.
Right.
And I was asked to come there by a new president at Eagle Picture to to professionalize the department because it had grown up in the old mentality.
Right. Things were changing. It's time to
Yes.
adapt to change.
And the pay has changed with it. I've seen people call HR directors that were making $10 an hour and those that were making way over six figures because they were a part of top management, you know.
Right. So the field of HR has changed tremendously over the
yes.
years. And
Many people now are certified in the field, and there's certification tests that kind of say that you have had the academic background and a lot of knowledge of legal things, but also you had to have had experience working in a non-exempt position to show in HR.
Right.
And you have to have that certified even to take the test.
before you can get to that point.
Yes,
Right.
and all organizations don't demand it. Some will say we prefer certification, and others don't say, but if they get it, it's a bonus. So we encourage our students to try for the certification.
Do you have certain qualities that you think are best for students in human resources? The type of personalities or qualities? What type of students?
Well, they have to be positive,
Right.
because a lot of their employees are not. And there's conflicts constantly, which brings up the fact that they need to be able to handle a conflict and to listen to both sides, to investigate. They need to be very objective. This can't be done with emotions.
Right.
And anytime you're making a personnel decision, whether it be a promotion, a hiring decision, or going the other way, a discipline, or it needs to be thoroughly investigated. And this has become more so because we have more issues out there than it seems that we did at one time. We seem to have a very fragile society where people are offended or upset almost about anything.
So it's a fine line many times
Yes.
now, walking them.
And you need that employee. I mean, it's not just making a decision, but you need that employee, and you also need them where their mind is free to do their job. And I have had people to work in the field or managers who are not HR, but they really are because they're dealing with people.
Right.
And they said, my job is not to hold their hand or all these little issues. It's to get the widgets out the door. Well, they're not going to get the widgets out the door if they're upset.
You have to have the people happy to get the job done.
Yes, I'm actually a certified counselor, and I was a career counselor at Crowder for a while. And I did more counseling as an HR director than I did as a counselor.
Wow.
People with real problems. A supervisor, I remember, who was afraid to go home that night. Do you find her a place that she can go to be safe? And that offender may not know where she is that night, but you network with agencies that will help you with that. But he may know where she is the next day, so you immediately have to alert security that he can't be there anymore, because violence in the workplace is a real thing.
Right.
So
the society problems are coming into the workplace.
you had to
and
work
people
very
need to be
closely
aware
with
of it.
security and the police department. And so it's a people problem, issue, job, and people are unique.
So working with people. Well, I know at Missouri Southern you were also involved with a number of committees on campus.
Yes.
I think some of those even tied into promotions and personnel. You were kind of giving some of your expertise to the university as well.
Well, hopefully. I was on the promotion committee for years, off and on, was on, came back. And then they put those two committees together where it was tenure and promotion. So I was on that, and I think only 1 year after it went together. So, and that's changed over the year.
Those processes have changed at the university.
Yes,
level
and much
quite a
more
bit.
formal. As the university, I don't know whether you'd say matures and good or bad, that's everybody's opinion. But when I received tenure, I didn't apply, I got a letter that I had received it.
So it was just somebody granted it to you.
Yes, well, my dean and We didn't even have department heads then, but they just said, you've served 6 years and you've done a good job, and so you have tenure.
Right. Not anymore.
No. It's a very formal process.
Tying that together. Well, at Missouri Southern, there's been a lot of changes while you've been here. I know even the school business building has changed. Let's share some of your thoughts about what it was like when you first walked on campus to what it's like now as you're finishing your career.
Well, my first adjunct job, and actually another 7 or 8 years, I was in what now they call the Mansion, and is our alumni center, and there was another wing of classrooms that was there where most of our classrooms were. One of the most enjoyable rooms I had, though, was kind of a sunroom with a fountain and a fireplace in it, quite a bit of character. My office was upstairs in a bedroom where 3 of us shared, overlooked the biology pond, and I kind of hated to leave it, truthfully. And the new building, I think I went there, well, the building was there, but they added an addition onto it. I believe in '85, so I was one who several of us got to go over while there was only steel studs up and to pick out our office.
I'm going to be in this corner, you're going to be over there.
Yes.
Right.
And I was in 3 different offices there, about 10 years in each one of them.
Right.
And so, and I'm moving again at the end of this semester because the phased faculty need to vacate so the new faculty can come in.
Right, the full-time people are coming in to their office. Right.
So the phased people are all together in one room. Somebody called it the hospice ward.
So you're all housed together sharing that. And enrollment has changed a lot at Missouri Southern over those years.
Yes. And actually, class size probably is not any larger because everything used to be in class, face-to-face, a lot of night classes then, and we still have a few. But we had something like 1/4 of our student population attending night classes.
Because they were working during the daytime.
Yes, but a regular day student could choose to take a night class, and that was really good many times to blend that non-traditional student in with the traditional student, and I think that was a very positive thing. But now we try to offer so many formats. We have, of course, the online classes. We have hybrid classes where they meet maybe half of the time and the rest is online. We have night classes. We've had classes down at Crowder and at Jane, Missouri. And really it means that there's so many options, you may not have as many in any given section.
In one specific section of that class.
Yes.
Tying that together. So technology has really changed the ability to reach out to the students.
Well, and even if you're face-to-face, you still use technology. You use the Blackboard platform.
Right.
But if they're online, that's basically all they're using. And then the challenge is just to be constantly responding to students in a timely manner.
Right.
As an advisor, I would hear complaints that they had emailed a professor and hadn't heard a response in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Not good, you know. And that doesn't happen much, But I had in my own little internal commitment that it should never be more than 24 hours, you know. I like it to be within the same business day. And
so really it's kind of a customer service approach.
Yes.
The students are the customers and
they just need a response. They didn't understand the instructions. Why did I get this score on this? And you respond to them.
Tying that together.
Primarily through email.
Well, if someone were to ask you, what are some of the secrets to success? Long career, successful career in higher education, especially here at Missouri Southern. What would you say are some of the keys to success you would share with someone?
Well, I would say, first of all, be positive. I would say be responsive to whomever, but students primarily. But I would also say don't sweat the little stuff. Plenty of big stuff will come, but a lot of things that one considers problems may not become a problem, and so.
So when you look back at those things, they were just irritants, they weren't major problems.
Yes, we've had several changes here that I didn't agree with everything and still don't, but I can still work with that environment. And I maybe do what I can to change the environment to what I think is right, but then my job is to adjust to the environment that exists.
So you're constantly adapting as a professor and instructor as well, as the students are.
And I think keeping up to date, I have a handy little way of doing this. All of my students have a requirement that they summarize 5 professional literature reviews in the field, and stuff that is current. And so here, before this semester, I don't have this many now, I would have 100+ students, each doing 500 literature reviews, which I do read.
So you learn yourself by
And
reading their work.
you keep up to date by doing that, and that also updates textbooks and things like this, because sometimes your textbook is not all that up to date.
They can become outdated
Yes.
after the year they're published.
Right, especially in some fields like tax accounting or something. So they have to keep up to date by writing professional literature reviews, and that's equal to a full exam in my class. So the students, it's enough that they know it's important.
It sounds like it's teaching them to always looking at the future
Yes,
too.
and it helps me keep up to date at the same time.
Sharing
Yes.
that, right. Well, what will you miss the most about Missouri Southern when the final retirement comes through and you finish your phase?
Well, for a local industry every year until this last year, because they also have come out of bankruptcy and have new ownership, but I had done a retirement seminar for them. And, you know, Social Security people came and talked to them, their benefits people came. My job, right after lunch, he said, first is to keep them awake. And secondly, is kind of the psychological impact. I have a graduate degree in psychology, counseling psychology. And what is the psychological impact of quitting work? And a lot of people don't plan for that. They don't even plan for the financial side.
But that whole, my life is changing. Yeah.
Yes. And I am a real believer that you have to have a purpose when you go to bed tonight for tomorrow.
Right.
And my wife said for years, even though I'm very old, said for years, you cannot quit until you have something to do.
You have to have a plan in place.
Yes, and I've had 2 or 3 little people, contacts in industry that said, come to work for me. One guy wants me to drive cars. He said it doesn't pay much but for a rental company, but he says it's a get you out of the house for an old man job. But it would be a purpose and something you got to be responsible for. So I would tell these people, don't retire from this company I was talking to, retire to something. So what are you going to do? Now, this may be sexist, but I think women have an easier time of doing that than most men, lots of exceptions. But a woman retires and she's relating more, maybe, than the man to grandchildren, the home.
The family side of things.
Yes, and the home, and there's always redecorating. I don't notice those kind of needs that are there, but my wife does, and she is busier than I am, still working in her retirement.
Right. Right.
She was also a teacher, but...
So you're both having those future opportunities for having something to do. Well, I'd like to thank you very much for sharing with us and the audience today. I know then also congratulate you on the retirement recognition that's coming up and wish you the best of luck in the future.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'd like to thank you, the viewers, for joining us this week on Newsmakers. I'm Judy Stiles. Hope you can join me again next week at the same time on this station. We'll see you then.